Can I please go back to my game? I have mounts to farm, and the deadline for the collector's bounty is fast approaching.
I believe we clearly stated that you are free to go as soon as you admit that you have been participating in group content. Mr. Solo Q.
First of all, my name is Dave. It's not Mr. Solo Q. My generation can get on the internet using our own names.
You are purposefully being obtuse, Mr. Q.
Stop calling me that.
Have we hit a nerve? Tell us why you are queuing up for group content.
It's okay. Your meager followers might still listen as you pretend to be the champion of the solo WoW player.
I told you, I do not engage in the social aspects of this MMO.
Don't you, Mr. Q?
Indeed. Why did you type NP into the chat on Wednesday, July 23rd at 7:43 p.m. server time?
Did you type NP to mean not present in this group content that I am currently participating in?
Hey, I have a respectable show about playing Warcraft alone.
And would your listeners appreciate you cheating on them? An elite WoW content creator doing what they want, when they want, thumbing their noses at the masses of Azeroth?
My listener, I mean, definitely listeners, they know I would not cheat on them. I am a solo player.
Truly? You believe that? In this world of cynicism and lies? Okay, then you are free to go.
Finally. My goodness.
On one condition.
What? What now?
We will escort you out of this room.
Out of the building.
And watch you hop onto your mount.
Go on. Show your adoring fans how true you are to the solo cause. You are free.
Here we go. Through the door and out onto the road.
Hop onto your mount.
Go on.
There it is.
Aha! The infinite pirate mount.
Get him!
You have entered the Solo Queue, a monthly podcast about adventuring alone in the world of Warcraft. Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Gagne. My goodness, it is late in the month. It is somehow the weekend of July 26th, 27th, and yeah, we need to get some more Solo Queue. So welcome to episode 27 of Solo Queue. A, kind of monthly, kind of more than monthly, kind of less than monthly show about casually playing World of Warcraft, except when it's not casual, and mostly playing solo, except when I'm not playing solo, apparently. The AI actors, the solo queue AI players, as I will call them, they're fine, but when they get excited, like towards the end of that bit, I can't even tell which one is which. They get really wonky when you tell them to ramp up the acting a little bit. They get a little bit funny. Hey, I am Dave. I am back here in the Solo Queue headquarters, which may be moving, actually. I may move the Solo Queue headquarters out of the basement and up a whole bunch of stairs to a room in the house that we have opened up. So yeah, I'm kind of like, oh no, this is sort of the end of a little bit of an era, at least on my end of the microphone. But here we are. We're back. It is the end of July there. Boy, August 5th, we have, the season 3 stuff coming, patch 11.2, and I know the season actually rolls out after that, but big change coming. I'm going to say for a lull in the game, this is about as busy as I think I've ever been. I'm not going to lie, and we're going to talk a lot about it today. I do want to give a huge thanks to Mr. Matt Rossi for joining me earlier in the month for our interview in episode 26. Really appreciate him coming on, talking all about his experiences in Warcraft and life and all sorts of stuff. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I really do feel like I just sort of stole him for a private audience, and that was a lot of fun. So thanks to Matt. Hopefully we do that again somewhere down the road. So yeah, that mount sound from the intro, I recorded that myself because that is a mount that I owned, the Chrono Corsair, as it's officially called. And yeah, there's only one way to get that mount, and that is to do lots of time walking. And I did, as I said, two episodes ago, episode 25, when I told you that time walking was coming, and I don't know, maybe, I don't know why, I was feeling the itch. It's not even like I'm in love with that mount. I think it's great. I think it's super cool. But I didn't say, oh, I need that mount. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I don't know what it was. It just thought, I think the time was right to just try time walking, dip my toe into that. I know talking with Jason Lucas back when we met up in Boston from the Starting Zone, when we were hanging out at the Boston event, we were late night talking about time walking, and I don't know, maybe that put the bug in me. I'm not sure, but I thought I would try it. And we'll talk about it more. We'll talk about a lot of things today. We'll talk about all the news that is coming, the things that are going on, the things that I have accomplished in the last very busy month or so of being in Azeroth. And we'll focus for kind of a main topic on the thing that has occupied most of my time, and probably some of you as well, and that, of course, is the Collector's Bounty. And I saw 2 days ago on the interwebs, somebody post a thing that said, hey, now that the Collector's Bounty is almost over, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, what are they talking about? And I realized, holy cow, it is, like I said, the end of July. And that sort of came very quickly. So I want to get this episode out to you while the Collector's Bounty is still going on. We still have a few more days. So let's jump into it all. But before we get into the news, before we get into all of that stuff, there is something I wanted to add, and that is an occasional segment. Maybe it'll come and go every now and then, and that is the Solo Q Book Club.
The universe is full of mystery.
What's your story?
There's a lot of media outside of the game with World of Warcraft, and I think it makes sense to add a little book club feature, a little book review, if you will. Talk about related media, maybe it's short stories, I don't know, we'll see. But oddly enough, the inspiration for this is not the War of the Ancients or Arthas or any of the other WoW media. It's actually not Warcraft related. It is adjacent. It is Warcraft adjacent. And it is a book that I got for Father's Day because how cool. That's awesome. I got this book called, and you may have heard of it, you may not, Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. And apparently it is I have the first of a whole series of books. I'm not sure exactly how many Dungeon Crawler Carl books there are. I want to say at least 6 or 7. I didn't check yet, but this was interesting, and I knew I had to mention it on the show because it was really neat reading this. And if you, if you enjoy World of Warcraft, which I have no idea why you would be listening otherwise, unless you were my wife or my mom, but I don't think she listens. But this book was super immersive. I don't know, as a WoW player, this book was not lore-wise, not story-wise, quite the other side of the screen. You feel like you are the character in a video game. Now, I don't want to give too much of this book away. I think it's fantastic, but the gist of it is this. The main character becomes part of essentially a giant dungeon, giant raid, giant, instance with many people. It is definitely not solo. Because of world events, whatever, some fantastical thing that at first I didn't really buy. Sometimes fiction needs you to take a leap of faith. And at first I didn't quite take that leap of faith. And then I did. And I was like, no. Nope, I'm down. This is cool. And anyway, the start of all of it doesn't really matter. But once this character is immersed in this dungeon with literal quests, achievements, loot drops, weapons, armor, damage, potions, it is not Warcraft specifically. And I'm sure players of a lot of other games could, see themselves in this or see their game in this, no doubt. But boy, it felt a lot like you found the generic version of Warcraft and you were able to get sucked into it as a story. It was really cool. I think if you enjoy playing this game, you're going to enjoy this book. Literally, levels, it has achievements, it has a UI built into it, oddly. And it takes you through that experience, but as people, as the people of the earth get pulled into this game, kind of Running Man style. I don't know if anyone remembers the movie The Running Man or the Stephen King short story that The Running Man is based on. Essentially, you get people put into this life and death game show. And it was really cool. I remember really liking that movie. This had that feeling to it. The story kind of is akin to that. But again, once you're off and running, you're just like, wow, I'm playing a video game, sort of. It's really cool. So, Dungeon Crawler Carl, I know that this first book is, like I said, one in a whole series, and I look forward to reading the rest. And again, it's not super complicated, it's not Lord of the Rings, it's just a fun adventure that I think gamers are going to really appreciate. So check that out if you have any sort of book list or you want to read something that's kind of game adjacent, fantasy adjacent, go for it. Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. It gets, 3 Qs up, 5 Qs up. I have no idea. What's our rating system going to be? Whatever it is, full marks. Now that we have finished with the arts portion of our broadcast, let's turn to the news.
You bring news?
What news from the mainland?
Have you any news?
Okay, we have a lot in the news, and I realized something. I need to break this up into things that are going on in the game right now and things that are coming. So we'll kind of divide the news up in that way. But before we do that, I actually have one thing that doesn't fit into that because it's a thing that already happened. And that was back on July 20th, the March of the Sethrak took place. This is the second march this year, maybe the third overall. I feel like there was one last year. But this was a march of Sethrak players, people playing, RPing as Sethrak, and obviously unionized and organized by the Snake of Vol'dun, big friend and friend of the show. And this was, of course, in support of lobbying for Sethrak as a playable race. And I was hoping to get out there. In fact, there was one connection to the time walking thing because I thought, oh, okay, this time walking toy that is available, the Lightning Blessed Spire toy. If you pick that up, I've talked about it on the show before, but in week 1 of time walking, when they introduced the BFA time walking for the first time, one of the things available on the vendor was the Lightning Blessed Spire toy. And when you click that, you take on the appearance of a Sethrak. Well, I thought, oh my goodness, that's that's fantastic because I'll grab one and then I can participate in the march. And that was, I don't know, I was busy. I didn't get into the game a lot that week, and I ended up missing that week. I didn't get to the BFA time walking vendor to go purchase that, even though I have plenty of time walking badges. So that didn't happen. And then I thought, oh, okay, well, they're going to do that parade. And without doing the math, I thought 7 weeks of time walking, I'll be able to get that when BFA time walking rolls back around. I'll be able to grab the toy and then can hop into the thing. And that didn't happen. We're still a couple days away from BFA time walking returning, week 7 of the Turbulent Timeways event. And so I don't have the Spire toy. And I know I still could have gone in support of the Sethrak. I just didn't get there, and then I'm getting messages from Snake of Vol'dun saying how cool it was, and there is a video. I'll link it in the show notes. You can check it out. It's just really cool to see a giant line of, I don't know, 50, 60, 70, 80, I didn't count, but marching through Orgrimmar, marching through Dornogal, just kind of nice, at a pace, walking through. Super impressive. So congratulations to all the Sethrak players out there, and we're hoping momentum is kind of growing. So we'll see if Blizzard buys into this and can find a way to make Sethrak a playable race. And if you want to participate, if you want to take on that Sethrak appearance, as I said, this is the last coming week of the Turbulent Timeways. On Tuesday, July 29th, it will be the start of the 7th week, the BFA time walking, and you can head out to, actually, I'm not sure where it is, but it's going to be probably in your capital of either Zuldazar or Borealis. Find the time walking vendor and pick up your Lightning Blessed Spire toy. It's out there. It's ready for you. All right, let's jump into what is going on in game right now. Some of it for a little bit longer, some of it for not much longer. But first thing is the Greedy Emissary event, where in Orgrimmar, Stormwind, Dornogal, and in the Undermine, the goblins of, the treasure goblins of Diablo appear, and you have the ability to loot all sorts of stuff. I'm sure you've done this if you were interested. This is, again, not news. It's almost done, for goodness sake. I did get in there, and I was doing it on my main, and really I was just trying to get through buy up all of the tier 2 recolors that were on offer. I started by saying, oh, well, let's see, these 3 look amazing, and these other 6 look pretty good, and the last bunch, and not so much. And of course, once I got into it, it was just easy to say, I should just get them all. Collect them all. In fact, that's kind of the theme for today's episode, is collect them all. And that one was finite. Like, I know it was a lot of grinding, and it was a lot of little whatchamacallits. I don't even remember what they're called. I got so many of them. The little soul thingies, whatever you get. On the good rolls, you get 6. On some of them, you get 5. And on the others, you get 1. And every 40, you get to go buy another tier set. So 13 tier sets times 40. I had already done that math. I've forgotten it. It was like 520, I think, of the shards of something. Yeah. There's only one thing left for me to get. I did get Inaris' charger. I know a lot of people did not. You get a few more tries. I still don't have the first one from the first event, which was a drop chance, but I don't have that. I think it's good if you grab characters, and if you have alts, get your alts out and run one of them through this until you get the bag, the 36 slot bag, and then switch, because basically everything else is either warbound or it's just, it's just loot, it's just stuff. The shards of whatever are warboundable, so you can send those around. So get that bag, and I guess the bag is probably warboundable as well. I don't know. Anyway, you do get some XP on that, so if you've got leveling alts, you can certainly do that. But really, the key to doing this, for me at least, was getting to Undermine, because once you get into Undermine, after the top of the hour, you sit in Dornegal, you hit the treasure goblins there, and then at 15 past the hour, they start spawning in Undermine. And the more people kill things, the more people kill rares, more portals spawn. And essentially, I found that if there were enough people in Undermine at the time, portals would spawn for about 15 minutes. And then at 30 past the hour, they would stop. And sometimes I got 12 more, 15 more treasure goblin thingies, because, we'd hit 3, 4, 5, sometimes 5 portals would pop. And, if there were enough people and enough people put enough things in, you get 3 treasure goblins per portal. So that sped things up a lot, I gotta say. I think that was vital. So if you are interested and you find your pace slow and you're not doing that, get down to Undermine and use that strategy as well. My very last, as I was getting close to the end, on my very last one, I think I only needed a couple shards or whatever they are, and there were 2 portals that ended up opening next to each other. So we had 6 treasure goblins running around, and the more people in the area, the tougher they are. So this was a bit of work. I found the one tedious thing was making sure that you tag each of them when they come out. You've got to hit each one. There was a couple times where I missed one, and you don't get to loot that body. You're just like, oh, I guess I only got 2 this time. So all in all, is it an interesting event? Not really. It's sort of just a cash grab gimme thing, which I guess is kind of nice. It's also kind of finite. Like, I know 520 shards is a bit much. Obviously, you don't have to go get all of those appearances, but the list, ultimately that list is finite. So I did as much of this as I wanted to and needed to, and there's no, other than that one mount that's left, I don't need to keep doing this event if I don't like to, if I don't want to. So I think in that way, it's not super tied to the story. It's ultimately a crossover event, which, doesn't work for me. I'm not going to go play Diablo, through no fault of its own. But if that's the goal, that, it's not successful for me, but that's okay. But it's a way of Blizzard getting us some neat different things. And yeah, so I like that. And it certainly keeps you busy in the lull before a new patch. So if there's another theme to this show, this episode, it's that. This is a very busy lull. And so that was probably the first big thing this month. Once I dove into that, that was all immersive. And then I was able to shift gears. A couple other things that are going on. The Winds of Mysterious Fortune. That event is still live, and it is running until August 12th. So essentially, that second week, the first full reset of Season 3, I guess that's technically when Season 3 starts. I get to say, the first reset of 11.2. So once that patch drops, you get another week of Winds of Mysterious Fortune. What's that giving you? Well, if you are a character level 10 to 79, it's giving you a 20% XP buff. And 20 is nice. It's not amazing. But if you take 10% from Dark Moon Fair, which will open up actually a week from today. Today's the 27th as I record, so next Sunday will be August whatever. So in less than a week, you'll have the 10% there. If you have multiple level 80s, for each one, you get 5 more percent, up to 25% buffed for XP for your other characters that are below level 80. So all of a sudden, you could have 20% Mysterious Fortune, 10% Dark Moon Fair for a week, 25% for that, I forget what it's called, that leveling buff. So that's 55%. I'm going to level, now that Collectors is winding down, I'm going to start leveling a couple tunes and just keep pushing that total level number up. The other benefit, even if you're not into leveling, the other benefit to this is the renown buff. So for Dragonflight renowns, which was, the start of kind of the big renown push, each of those Dragonflight renowns has a 200% buff to that, which is great. And in the War Within, most factions, I'm not sure which ones are accepted, I forget, but most factions are seeing a 100% buff to renown. The renowns that are included are Council of Dornegal, Flames Radiance, Hallowfall, Arathi, the Assembly of the Deeps, the General, the Vizier, and the Weaver down there in Ashgahet. And the Undermine cartels, Bilgewater, Blackwater, Dark Fuse, Solutions, Steamweedle, and Venture Company. I'm not sure what else is left. There may be something, I guess the Raid Renown, that is a renown that is not on my radar, of course, but that is not on the list, so I assume that is not affected by that if you're doing that. Maybe you can think of another renown, I don't know. But if I didn't say it, it's not on that list, so. The third part of the Mysterious Fortune event is kind of mysterious indeed, actually. If you're not aware of it, the game is going to throw some mysterious satchels your way. They just kind of appear. I don't want to say completely unannounced. I think there's a little thing, but I keep not noticing them. The mysterious satchels will have various stat boosts and potions and alterations to your character. I think I interacted with this. I used one of my Horde Druids, my Tauren Druid, to do the time walking stuff each week. And at some point, all of a sudden, he had a void orb thing floating next to him. And I didn't know what that was. I thought I'd summoned some pet. And I didn't even remember doing it. But I think that might have been one of these weird alteration things, because it would attack things every now and then. And I'd be like, I need you to not attack certain things. Once I started doing some collecting and raid running, farming, stuff like that, I had to shut that off for a bit because it was attacking things I didn't want it to. But there are various potions, including an XP potion, another buff to your XP. Those potions, two things. They are warbound, so you can collect them and pass them off to other characters. Your characters have to be below level 80. You can't be 80 to be collecting this stuff, but once you collect them, they are warbound, so you can send them to other alts, and they are usable outside of this event. So if you just want to run around and collect potions and level with whatever's going on and not pay much attention, do that. And then you'll have these potions that you could use after August 12th, after the event finishes up. So yeah, check your bags for those. Check, don't vendor stuff. Be careful what you vendor right now. There may be stuff in your bags for your leveling characters that are more useful than you might have realized. Also ongoing, Horrific Visions. They are still active, and we got news that they are going to continue longer than anticipated. They're going to stick around into Season 3, although, and this is neat, they're going to continue at Season 2 power levels. So if you have been maybe not going super hard in Horrific Visions, or maybe you're not fully geared out, which I get, if you're hitting a roadblock in those, know that once 11.2 hits and you start just naturally gearing up power levels to Season 3 levels, those are going to get easier. So if Horrific Visions, and I think I fall into this category, Horrific Visions are interesting to me. I did start them. I mentioned that they kind of got me back into the game after a bit of a break. And then I just stopped. And part of it is, there's just so many other things in here to do that, I didn't keep going with them. But I would like to get back to them. The whole mask thing is interesting. I don't really know that system yet. I haven't done any of that. And not having done them the first time they came around in BFA, I'm not completely burnt out on them. So I'm going to take this and use this to my advantage. I'm going to be able to get in there, make it a little bit easier. I don't know if there's titles that aren't going to be available. I don't really care. It's going to be interesting to be able to get to some of that content a little bit on the easier side with a little bit more power. So looking forward to that. Put that on your calendar of things to do if you want. Of course, the big thing, the collector's bounty. It is live for another couple of days. Not much. It shuts off in just 2 days. We will talk about that a little bit later in the show. Last thing I have in the news that also is ending in the coming days, that is the Mists of Pandaria Classic pre-patch and launch event. Remember, if you hop into Mist of Pandaria Classic and you level a new Pandaren through that starting zone, if you get yourself off that starting zone island, you will earn one of my, a version of my favorite mount in the game. This is the Shauhaus Sage Serpent mount. And it really is based on my favorite mount. And that was the Astral Cloud Serpent. It's available for Mogashan Vaults. And it is a blue colored cloud serpent that's translucent. And it has the stars as the skeletons. I'm sure you've probably seen it. It is super cool. I think it is fantastic. When Mist of Pandaria Remix came out recently, they offered the Astral Emperor's Serpent, and that was a gold recolor of that same mount. So the skeleton, stars as the skeleton, the translucent skin, super, super cool. This one is a green version of that, and this is, as I said, Shauhaus Sage Serpent. You get that mount in retail for doing the thing in Classic. I think you also get I haven't checked this because I don't play a lot of Classic, but I think you also get a pet in Classic. And the two are not swappable. You can't move one to the other. But if you're playing Classic anyway, jump in there, do the Pandaren. I know it takes a little bit, but the story's really cool. I really enjoyed all of that. So if you like cloud serpents, if you like translucent serpents, if you like see-through mounts, do that. If you love Pandarans, if you love that starting zone, so good. We'll talk about that in a few minutes once we get out of the news. Okay, let's also talk about what is coming. What is coming in the game? What is not here yet, but is coming. The first thing on my list is actually what I hope is coming. And this one's a little bit, I don't want to say sad, a little sad, a little unexpected, not unexpected, I should say. And that is the recent passing of Ozzy Osbourne, metal legend, rock god, call him all sorts of things, fan or not, Ozzy and Black Sabbath, huge influence on the world of music. There are multiple genres that have spun out of the work that Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne did in the late 60s into the 70s. Foundational, groundbreaking, phenomenal. If you only know him as the bumbling, strange old man from the Osbournes reality show, man, I feel bad that you're missing out if you only know him as a caricature of biting the heads off things and whatever. Man, his music is amazing. And by all stories and measures, he was an outstanding, down-to-earth, genuine, nice guy. And, I know the world of celebrity is filled with people who kind of seem like that. And then we find out, blah, 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 blah. Man, no one's found out otherwise with Ozzy. And I think we lost a true, awesome human being. What does it matter here? Well, Ozzy is actually connected to the World of Warcraft. He was one of the, kind of super celebrities who made a TV commercial for Warcraft back in the day. I forget what year, maybe it was 2008, I'm not sure. So there is a commercial, and of course in that commercial, they kind of render him as a character in game. So that has people saying, hey, put Ozzy in game, and I did a little searching, and Ozzy actually kind of is in game. There is an NPC called Osborne Black, and Osborne Black, kind of a combination of Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne, of course, is an NPC in Maldraxxus, in the seat of the Primus. And so, I guess in a way, he's already in game. He's not terribly accessible because to get into the seat of the Primus, you have to have done all of the questing in Maldraxxus. And for all the people who took Shadowlands off and didn't bother, they're out. To all the people who started playing after Shadowlands, they're out. And then you have me. I played in Shadowlands. I finished the Maldraxxus zone. I have Lore Master of Maldraxxus. I think I've done every quest in Maldraxxus. And I went today, after doing that little research, I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to go check out Osborne Black in game and, say hello. I couldn't get into the seat of the Primus. There's a door, and I watched people go in. I'm like, oh, wow, people are going in. Clearly, I don't have access. What do I need to do? Because I did it on an alt, and I thought, okay, yeah, this character didn't do all the things, so fine, not everything's warbound. I get it. That's fine. I'll hop into my main, who did all of, she did all of the lore master stuff herself, and she got to the same door and couldn't get in, and I was very confused. So then, now I'm down a rabbit hole. Now I'm on Wowhead and checking out, what's this quest and this one, and Wowhead has the cool feature of any quest that you look up, it has a text line that you can put in game, and it will tell you inside of Warcraft in game whether or not you've completed that quest. So what I think was the final quest to unlock the seat of the Primus. Do I have this? Click it in. True. I have completed it. So why can't I get into the seat of the Primus to go see Osborne Black? I don't know. But that definitely cost me at least 20 plus minutes today of rabbit hole. At some point I'm like, oh, I'm not recording a podcast right now. I should stop. I should get back to something that is much more related to the game. But I'll say this. There's an obvious connection between heavy metal music, kind of hard driving, hard rock music, and certain aspects of World of Warcraft. Now, obviously not all of it, but there is a connection there. And I don't know. I mean, Blizzard has honored what turn out to be some crappy people who worked for Blizzard, who, luckily have been removed from the game since then. But there are worse people in the game already, I'm sure. I think it'd be cool if Blizzard took that step and honored Ozzy in some meaningful way that is not behind a stone door that I don't know why I can't get to. That's really annoying. So here we go. Maybe we'll see Osborne Black or some other version of Ozzy honored in game. If you haven't seen it, and I hadn't seen it before today, if you haven't seen it, check out the commercial online. It's Ozzy and Arthas actually arguing over who is the true Prince of Darkness. So that was pretty cool. That was a fun commercial. I'm glad I checked that out. And the world and the music community has certainly lost a huge figure. What's more legendary, and by that I just mean literally the stuff of legend, to give your farewell concert and pass away 2 weeks later. Like, that's how close he was. He knew he was that close. Suffering from Parkinson's and very debilitated. And, if you've seen any footage, I don't know how you haven't. My Instagram, and for that matter, even Twitter and stuff, flooded. And I know not, algorithms being what they are and everyone sees the same thing. I get that. But holy cow. I'm not sure I've ever been flooded by a single person, a single event like this. And I think a lot of corners of the world and a lot of corners of the internet, people are paying tribute in a lot of different ways to the Ozman. So there you go. That's my thoughts on Ozzy. Yeah. Okay, back to the World of Warcraft with the living and the undead, but the mostly living. Blizzard offered up yet another in a series of housing updates, and I have to say I haven't really had a chance to dig into this other than I've listened to a bunch of other people talk about it, so if I get a few things wrong, I apologize, but this sounds neat. This latest update talked about the public aspects of the housing situation, the housing feature, I guess we should call it. We do know that there are a couple types of settlements, towns, what are we calling them? The public towns where, you're just crammed in there, you get a lot, and people are kind of generated at random and thrown in there. But then you also have the guild neighborhoods. We're calling them neighborhoods. There we go. Just a quick little search. The public neighborhoods, the private neighborhoods, of which there are two kinds, the guild neighborhood and the charter neighborhood. So guild, obviously connected to a guild, and no matter the size of your guild, the game will keep spinning up neighborhood instances that are connected until either your guild is served or you hit 999 people, which I think is the limit of a guild anyway. So all of that can be connected. There are also charter neighborhoods, and charter neighborhoods are not connected to a guild. They're almost like a little bit, they're private in that, you control the access, but it's not tied to that guild organization. So it's a little bit more like communities, I guess. And one of the benefits of, well, I shouldn't say the benefits, but one of the reasons for grouping up in these ways is the events that are going to happen. And the public events are going to be monthly. They're going to be called endeavors. And it sounds, I'm lacking a few details, but it sounds like they're making this as inclusive as they can. It sounds like it's patterned off the trading post, where whether you give a crap or not about the trading post and about the monthly journey, if you do almost anything in game, you're gonna hit the trading post. Unless you just log in, and all you do is when you log in is you wander the world and farm herbs, and that's it. And then you sell them. If that's all you do, then yes, you're probably not gonna hit the trading post by accident. But if you do any other systems, you're gonna earn points to the trading post. And it sounds like the endeavors are gonna kind of be similar to this, where each month there's a thing, an event, it's gonna require things, and you can contribute to that by doing various systems, by doing various things, by participating in various ways. Go do quests, go do raids, go, collect a bunch of things. It sounds like it's going to be kind of that wide, and not, Blizzard is steering me into this one or two small aspects of the game and I don't do them, therefore this is not aimed for me. I think they're trying to be more inclusive, and that only makes sense. If you're trying to put out a system that is completely agnostic as to how you play the game, currently at least, if you're not into neighborhoods and houses, then whatever, that's fine. But Whether you're a Mythic Raider, whether you are a solo player, whether you are a PvPer, it doesn't matter what you currently do in game, they want you in a house and they want you participating. So it sounds like they're going to make those things available to as many playstyles as possible. And I think that's a good thing. That's a good trend. So I'm excited about this. Again, I try not to get too excited. I do want to see stuff. Not that I necessarily want to see the public test realm. I'm not necessarily going to do that personally, but I want to see it get to that point where people are actually engaging with it. That's why I did like hearing the reports out of the Boston event, because, people I follow and know a little bit, they are playing and they are participating and they were very positive. So that's good. We will see. Coming soon. We're getting closer, it sounds like. And what about this? What if I did the most unsolo thing possible and there was a solo queue charter community? Would anybody join that? Is that something I should do? Should I try and make one of my either my horde house or my alliance house, should it be in a charter neighborhood? I don't know. We could all be solo together. Who knows? I don't know. Let me know if you think that's a good idea. I'm thinking about it, kind of like I was thinking about time walking, and yeah, we'll talk about what happened there. Okay, related, not unconnected, the announcement of the next expansion, Midnight, is coming on August 19th. So we got less than 4 weeks. It's coming. It will be made at Gamescom, an event in Germany. I will not be there. Blizzard said, come see some of your favorite content creators. I thought, some people might be disappointed because I won't be there. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm somebody's favorite content creator. When I kept hearing announcements for this, I kept hearing the midnight announcement. I'm like, why would they do it at midnight? That's so weird. Midnight Germany time is not good. I guess midnight Germany time would be good for me. That'd be 5 hours? Maybe it's 6 hours to Germany from here. Either 5 or 6. So okay, that'd be evening, early evening. That'd be fine. But I thought, why would they do it at midnight? That's so weird. And they certainly wouldn't do it midnight my time. That would be really 5 or 6 in the morning Germany time. What? That made no sense. I was being really dumb. I keep forgetting that midnight's the name of the next expansion, the next one in the trilogy. But that mystified me for, I don't know, probably the first 2 weeks of hearing about that. Longer than I should probably admit to you. But the Midnight expansion announcement will be made at a time probably not midnight, although I guess there's a 1 in 24 chance that you are somewhere on this globe where it'll be midnight. I don't know. I don't know where that is. I don't know what time, but it'll be on the 19th. Gamescom runs for a few more days after that. It's the 20th to the 23rd or 4th. There's going to be panels. There's going to be stuff. Hopefully, I didn't see this explicitly stated, but obviously, if you're at Gamescom, you'll be able to attend the panels. I assume we're going to get some video of that stuff and stuff is going to come out. We will see. I hope. Cross your fingers. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what is next. That's going to be pretty jazzy. And maybe we'll get an announcement of, obviously, when Midnight's coming, but also when housing is coming. It seems that housing was intended to come before the launch of the expansion. And I think that makes sense, especially from a technical point of view. That's a huge system. If you can put the huge system in at the end of Season 3, not blow up your new game, your 12.0, 12 point whatever, that would be good. That's just a thought. So I'm looking forward to hearing the dates for that. As a side note, if my voice sounds horrible or if I forget to edit some of these coughing sounds out, my throat is terrible. I managed to inhale some black mold like a week or two ago, And it's mostly better until I decide to start talking for about an hour. So, yeah, I might miss a cough or two when editing. I hope not, but I apologize. Next on the list, two more things in the news is 11.2, of course, goes live on August 5th. So a week and a half from this moment, probably a little closer to a week after you get this podcast. And remember that August 5th, all of the 11.1 stuff will roll out, but the season doesn't start until the 12th. And so raids and dungeons and all that sort of stuff rolls out on the following week. So you've got a week to do the questing. And of course, with the changing of a season comes all of those things that, frankly, I'm not going to list, but all the things you need to do at the end of one season to make sure you get them if you want to get them while they're still current, or the things that go away, like all the raid achievements and the mounts and all that stuff. If you're, check the world for what you need to accomplish before the end of the patch. I don't have that in front of me right now. The one thing that jumped out at me was Delver's Journey. I didn't manage to complete that on time in the first season. I'm not sure if I'm close in the second season. To be honest with you, I don't even know what it fully entails. Is it just the leveling of Bran? That's one of the things I need to look up. The Nightfall scenario campground screen, so for your Warband login screen, that backdrop, that is available for completing. I don't know if there's a time limit on that. I don't know. And I even did a little bit of research and I didn't find the answer. So I hate to not have an answer for you. But the gist of it is, if there are things that you think are important to you, check them out before things go away. Because some things will go away August 5th. I think other things may go a little bit longer. Some things may end. Well, some things end in a couple days, like the collector's buff and all of that. So check out what you need to accomplish. And last thing I want to mention in the news is changes to the way your bank works. This is kind of interesting. And it kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody asked for this, and yet here it comes. And I think it's a good thing, but Blizzard is changing how the bank is set up. No longer are you going to have bank slots that you need to purchase that you then put a bag into, and the 7 slots that are available become your bank based on how big the bags you have are. This is interesting. From now on, you will have 6 bank tabs available. The 6 tabs are 98 what's the word I want? Capacity of 98 items, stacks, whatever. So 6 times 98, I'm not doing math very quickly, but that's 588 bank slots, tabs, things, not tabs, but yeah. Basically, your bank will have a capacity of 588, if I did my math right. So this is a change. Now, the change is this. If you are a level 80 character, you're going to get all 6 of those tabs opened up when 11.2 arrives and you log in, go to your bank, and stuff that was previously in your bank should be there. Stuff that was in your void storage, if you have void storage, should be there. One change is that the reagent bank, the separate 100 or whatever it was slot bank just for reagents that you could push a button and everything would go in, that is gone. There is no devoted reagent part anymore. Frankly, I think they should drop the reagent bag as well and just make it a bag, but that's just me. So that will disappear as well. And kind of like the leap of faith with warbands, all of your items should just appear in tabs in your bank. And if you're a level 80, you get all 6 tabs. The problem is, if you're not level 80, what you get depends on what you currently have. If you have void storage, meaning you have purchased void storage, then those tabs, I believe it's 2 tabs, tabs 5 and 6 will be opened up for you for free. If you have the reagent bank, that's another tab in the new 6-tab bank. Where the other 3 tabs come from, I'm not sure. If you need to have purchased a certain amount of bank slots so far, ultimately, whatever, because you're going to be able to buy all these with gold, but that's the thing. It sounds like it's going to be about 9,000 gold to buy up all the tabs. If you have a character, you have a fresh character who's never visited the bank, never opened void storage, any of that stuff, it sounds like after reset of 11.2, you're going to need to drop 9,000 gold if you want to open all the new 6 bank tabs. That may or may not be a concern to you. Like 9,000 is kind of a lot, but not really. But if it is to you, then it is to you. Or if you have, I don't know how many, even I have like 50 something characters under level 80. I certainly don't want to pay 9,000 times 50 or even some version of that to get all my bank tabs. Not that I'm necessarily going to get all of them, but if this is a concern to you, go now, buy your bank tabs for 25 gold each, buy into your void storage for 100 gold, and save yourself some money after the change. And in a weird bank-related thing, the other day, in a moment of frustration with my war bank, I finally just clicked the button that said, hey, do you want another tab in your war bank for 500,000 gold? And I finally just said yes and didn't even think about it because I was tired of not having enough space in my war bank. So I did that. That ties the largest amount of gold I've ever spent on something. I also bought the light forged warframe, that very cool mount from Legion. I dropped 500,000 on that, and that forever has been the largest amount of gold I've ever spent. Until now. Now I've tied it I don't regret it. I'd been eyeing it for a long time and thinking, I really don't want to pay for that. But I was sitting on 2.5 million gold, so okay, I should buy it. Now I have less gold, which is fine. But I also know the next bank tab in the warband is 2.5 million, and that's a lot. I better not click on that even by accident, because that'll be expensive. I don't spend my gold on much, so it wasn't that big a deal, but I also don't focus anymore on collecting gold. I kind of just maintain. So yeah, that was a big purchase. That was my big purchase for, well, there you go. For the second, for the last, 8 years at least. That's the biggest purchase I've had in about 8 years. And that bank tab does not look nearly as cool as my light forged warframe, which I still have on numerous characters. There you go. All right. Well, that's all the news. In life and in podcast, some of us need a drink. So yeah, we've been hanging out. I didn't mention it before, but we've been hanging out in the Vortex Pinnacle. That is the lovely music behind us. Let's see what we can find for a drink nearby Vortex Pinnacle before we head into what I have done in this month.
Interest ya in a pint?
Choose wisely.
Okay. It seems like this is the month of rabbit holes because I just paused. I thought, okay, let's go find a good place nearby to get a drink. And boy, wouldn't you know, there's not a lot around Oldham. Obviously there's nothing, no vendors of beverages at the Vortex Pinnacle or at Throne of the Four Winds, both just off the southern coast of Kalendor. So, I flew around a bit. No vendors in the lost city of Tolvir, which makes some sense. Went over to Schnatz's Landing on the west side of the coast, thinking, okay, I think there's some vendors there. There's a flight path there. There's something going on there. I get there. The flight master's dead. The other little gnomes and goblins are dead. There's voidy whatever's running around. I thought, oh, okay, yep. I need to change time frame, so I head up to Ramkahan, the center town in Oldham, speak to Zoradormi, change back to the original timeline, and then I fly back to Schnatz's Landing, and I think, all right, the old times. Except it's either not, or I really don't remember what's going on down there, because you get down there and there's a bunch of people that clearly are travelers, I think, in time. And they all make sort of reference to the fact that they are there like it was in the olden days, and they're just travelers there. And all they have, the vendor, the innkeeper, only has water. Which, okay, it's a desert. I kind of get it. Whatever. So I think, okay, nothing here, whatever. Let's fly, I don't know, back over Neverset, then we'll fly up the valley. Nothing. So I finally just give up and I go back to Ramkahen, like, fine, we'll go to the inn. The innkeeper, of course, is standing there next to the king, which is, kind of odd, but whatever. I'll drink in front of the king, that's fine. And all they have is water. Okay, come on. Let's go to Teneris. We'll find something in Teneris. I think there's a little side thing in Teneris. I fly over on the southern side of Teneris, and all there is an Alliance little flight point area. I think it's the Explorers League. They were all unfriendly, so kept going. Thought, all right, Gadgetsan. There we go. Town. And, an inn, a bar, it's a little city. We're going to do that. Get to Gadgetsan. Go to the innkeeper. Water. Like, I understand the importance of water in a desert. But, come on. So, north. Hey, if I'm going to find beverages of adult nature, where better than a speed barge, casino-y, whatever thing in the middle of a lake, right? So up to the speed barge in Thousand Needles. And after wandering around the boat like 8 times, trying to find the bar, I finally got in there. Oddly enough, there's giant arrows pointing to it. So I guess, sometimes when life points giant arrows, maybe just listen, I guess is the moral of that story. And I finally find myself at the bar, at the speed barge bar on the speed barge, where Daisy, the innkeeper,
Hello.
is serving a whole squad of goblins and gnomes, all very thirsty.
You need something?
Lots of drinks on tap. Finally, drinks. I was right. I'll have to remember this place because it has a very good, selection. And oddly enough, the only thing that seemed appropriate was, given this search, given the desert, given everything, the flask of bitter cactus cider. That seemed like the appropriate drink to wet my whistle. And boy, is it harsh. Maybe it's the cactus. Maybe it's my throat. I don't know. That said, to get me through the rest of the show, I did grab a jug of Badlands bourbon for the road because, you go with what works. For medicinal purposes, of course. That is our drink of the month. 2 drinks of the month this month. Why not? It's the end of the month. Is that a thing? I don't know. Doesn't matter. I don't need a thing. It's fine. Especially for bourbon. Let's talk about what the heck occupied my time in Azeroth this past month.
And what have you done lately?
We have wandered north of Thousand Needles to Mount Hyjal, specifically into the elemental plane of fire to the Firelands. Why? Reasons, you know. We've gotten here to answer the question of what have I done this month, and that started out with hopping into the Mist of Pandaria Classic, the intro quest, the pre-launch event where you get to get in there and make a new Pandaren character. And I mentioned I did that. There was a few more things I wanted to say about it. It was nice to revisit that. I enjoy that. I think some people think, oh, that intro is too long. It's too much work. Why do I have to do that? I enjoyed revisiting that. And it is a little bit. It's one of the longer starting zones. We talked about starting zones in the past a little bit. I talked about starting zones with Allie and Jin on Live Laugh Lore a number of episodes back, and it is one of the longer, more involved starting zones. You start out on an island, and, you know, I'm not going to spoil something that is 13 years old, and B, you could still go do now and be surprised if you've never done it, so I'm not going to say, but you are on an island, a very specific island. It is an interesting feature of that story. Plays a central role in the story, and it's I don't know, you could probably speed through it in much less than an hour, but if you're taking in the story and reading the quest and taking it all in, learning about the culture of the Pandarans, it's going to take you a while. It's probably going to take you an hour plus, I would guess. I didn't keep track. But it was interesting to go back. It's beautiful, first of all. The island is fabulous. The art style is fabulous. It is, as much as I have not been live in all of the expansions, I have been in all expansions. I see all the art, and it does feel like in Mists there is a change in the, I don't want to say the quality. That's not quite the right word, but there is a change in the style a little bit. It's absolutely Warcraft, but the fidelity, there's the word I want. I think the fidelity goes up a notch. It's more detailed. It's got more movement incorporated into objects. It is deeper in detail. The colors, of course, and part of that is cultural style of the Pandaren culture, but it just lends itself to a step up in that graphical fidelity, visual fidelity. And so that's fantastic. And that's sort of your first introduction to that as the expansion rolls out, now for the second time, or third time if you count Remix. So there's that. So much good. The story is really fantastic, I think. I think it takes you through some meaningful stuff. You start learning from your master, taking in information, learning some different ways to do things. And, slight spoiler here. When that first master passes away, it's so well done. It pulls at my heartstrings when that happens, and you go through and kind of honor him. And I love the way that story is portrayed in game. And definitely check that out. If you've never played a Pandaren, now's the time. I mean, I guess you could start in retail. That makes sense. You could start in retail and make a character if you wanted that character in retail. No reason not to, other than that mount, but that's your choice. The one thing that I noticed that I think I had kind of forgotten about is the explanation of the Horde and Alliance to Pandarans, because you are playing as a neutral character. To start the game, you are neither Horde nor Alliance. You are just a Pandaren on a floating island, away from it all. And of course, as the story is, both the Horde and the Alliance bring their violence and their war to this island. And you start to see this explained. Now, The actual Horde and Alliance don't really show up until towards the end of the story. But the way it's designed, you are presented with two paths. You are presented with two ways of doing things, two sort of ethos paths in a way. And at the end, one of those paths leads to the Alliance, one leads to the Horde. And it is through two characters, two kind of training partner, slightly older, experienced Pandarans, Asa Cloudsinger and G Firepaw, both veterans of the best NPCs in WoW competition. And it is interesting. I noticed there are two quotes that they sort of throw out there. Asa Cloudsinger says, "Patience is the highest virtue." And that really is a good summation of her way of going about things, of let's think things through, let's be patient, let's calculate, let's, be wise about what our actions are. G Firepaw, on the other hand, his quote that sums everything up is, "The greatest virtue is the will to act." And, hey, you can think all day long. Thinking won't get things done. You need to, at some point, take action to do the thing. And G, of course, is a go-getter. He's let's kick the door down and do what needs to be done. Where Asa is plotting and thinking and trying to figure out what's on the other side of that door before action is taken and what's the best way to do this. And obviously, there is wisdom in each of those paths, both in game and in life. That's no big surprise. Balancing the two, which I think would be an appropriately Pandaran thing, finding the balance of those things is probably the best path overall, but you don't get that choice because at the end of the starting zone experience, you are asked, "Hey, Pandaran, would you like to follow Asa Cloudsinger, who really feels like the Alliance is the best path for her, or would you like to follow G Firepaw, who feels the Horde is his best path?" And they are friends, and they have that kind of friendship where they get along, but they argue a bunch, and because of these two different pathways, and you see that in the story. And they take those ethoses with the side of the conflict that they think fits them. And it's true. This is kind of good writing in the way of that is kind of what the Alliance is, and that is kind of what the Horde is. So these two characters will lead you into the direction of your choice. It seems a little cheesy, and of course it's a little cut and dry and a little pat, but it is a good introduction. And I feel like this was a good way for people unfamiliar with Warcraft to kind of jump on board and get a quick version of what's going on here. Instead of, here's the blue team, here's the red team, this one has humans, this one doesn't. What's your choice? What do you want to do? And by its nature, it's not super replayable. It's not quick. It's not Exile's Reach, for God's sakes. It's not 20 minutes out of your life and sleeping through it. It is, it's a bit of commitment. That said, even in the classic version, I came out of that at level 15. It wasn't unproductive. For all that time, I didn't just come out as a level 10. The other thing that really caught my eye and related to all of that is the very last thing you do, and that is the choice. A screen pops up and it says, "Hey, choose your destiny. The Alliance, the Horde." And it has two descriptions. It has one description of the Alliance, one of the Horde. And it's interesting. The Alliance reads this: "The noble races of the Alliance are bound together by proud traditions of nobility, honor, faith, justice, and sacrifice. The many different Alliance peoples all contribute their technical, arcane, and spiritual wisdom toward the goal of a peaceful and just world. Take up their banner to represent the high ideals of the Alliance throughout Azeroth and beyond." And there's a button to join the Alliance. On the other side, the red side, The proud nations of the Horde are loosely joined in an alliance of convenience against a hostile world that would see them destroyed. Focused, ferocious, and sometimes monstrous, the Horde values strength and honor, but struggles to keep its aggression in check. Join the Horde and fight to build a world where their people can live free. And something jumped out at me reading those two. And I know some people on Twitter and other social media places really like to go deep on this this difference and this kind of flaw in the writing or the personification of these races. I'm going to set some of that aside, but I will say there is an interesting difference here. The Alliance description mentions no flaws. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing bad. The Alliance doesn't do anything bad. It's all nobility. It's all faith and sacrifice and honor, great goals, using their tools, working together. The Horde is similar, but it is sometimes monstrous, and it sometimes struggles to keep its aggression in check. So there's that little hint of lesser than. And that is interesting. That's not just underdog. And it's interesting in a game setting like this to say, hey, these peoples, the Alliance is made of many different Alliance peoples. Technically, you have people, you have humans, you have Worgans, which are kind of different humans at this point, but then you go on to have all these other races that are not specifically literally people, and then on the Horde you have no people. So, but if we're using the term people just to refer to sentient beings who are playable, well, that is a very big difference. Like, the peoples of the Alliance, which we can read that to mean the elves and the dwarves and the gnomes and the humans, etc., the Draenei for that matter, etc., etc. The Horde doesn't use that term. In fact, it goes to say sometimes monstrous. Like, some of the races are monstrous, or they're just sometimes they act monstrous because, hey, the Alliance acts monstrous at times too. So it is interesting that rivalry, that lesser than, that this side is the good guys, these guys are sometimes the bad guys. That's sort of baked into the descriptions. And again, that was 13 years ago. Like, is that changing? Do they want a more balanced representation? I think so. I don't know. I'm not passing judgment. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's interesting. And it's kind of a reminder of where the storytelling has come from with the Horde and the Alliance and the conflict and how the races are portrayed. You know, since 2013, we've had a lot of races introduced to both sides, the Horde and the Alliance. A lot of things to, I don't want to say balance it out, but sort of, but not really. Like, it's not balancing what we're talking about here. I think my ultimate point is I see where Blizzard has tried to steer the narrative in certain ways and say, you know, these are the monster races and these are the good guys. And I think that's unfortunate. So you can see the point that people make when they get into these arguments. I'd like to think that we're moving in a better direction. I'm not going to say it's perfect by any stretch. I'd like to think that we're moving in a direction that is a little bit more fair to the races in general, and you can ascribe the actions of individuals to individuals, not necessarily to the entire race. Hey, like I said, the Alliance has done some pretty horrific things as well. So, you know, there we go. Okay. What else have I done with less editorializing? Second big activity that I got into recently was diving into the lore walking quests. This was kind of neat. I'm not going to lie. I think this is great for the game. Lore walking, if you haven't heard, is essentially a new system in the game where you're going to be able to go to an NPC. Right now it's Lore Walker Cho. I assume it will always be Lore Walker Cho. Why wouldn't it be? And Lore Walker Cho will basically put you into a guardrail guided tour of a lore topic. And at the moment, this launched with 3 different topics. Arthas becoming the Lich King, the story of Xalatath, and the story of the Ethereals. I, maybe wisely, maybe not wisely, I haven't decided yet, I chose to go in the direction of least useful to the current story to most. And that means I started with Arthas because on the face, the story of Arthas doesn't have a lot to do with 11.2 or possibly even Midnight. So I started with that, and I found it good. I liked it. I've heard some people say that this was going to be a good way to level characters, and I'm maybe my experience was different. I didn't find that to be the case. I took a level 70 into lore walking and went through the Arthas story. I thought it was good. What was interesting, it turned Northrend into kind of a current content zone as far as exploration wise goes. So I was going through, and you know how if you go through an old zone, you find a new area and you get 51 experience points because that's not current content for you. Like if you went to Dragonflight, you'd get a buttload of experience. Well, it turned Northrend into a full experience zone. So each little area was 1,300 experience points, which is great. That's good passive leveling. That said, I went from 70 to 71 throughout the whole time walking, throughout the whole lore walking story. So that was pretty involved for one level. That, in my mind, is not optimal leveling. Now, it is possible that the 70 to 80 zone is totally different, and I think it is. So it's possible. I'll try and do the next one on like a level 50 or something, something outside of that 70 zone, because that may be a better, more profitable way to level. So we'll see. That I don't know. So I got through Arthas, then I hopped into the Ethereals. I thought I want to know the Ethereals. I also decided to start testing out the 1-button rotation idea, even though I know how to play Hunter, kind of. It's one of the classes I do enjoy playing. But I thought, you know what? I want to focus on the story. I don't want to bother myself with rotation stuff. And I liked it. I thought it was good. For not heavy hitting content, why not? Or for a class that you don't either know how to play or want to know how to play at that moment, I think it's great. The delay is kind of noticeable. And again, I'm not the best, most focused player in the world. If I thought about it, then yeah, probably I'm missing a little bit of that time / volume of damage, but in this kind of content, it didn't matter. Like that, this was a great use of it, and I think this is a great thing. Can I see it getting tuned down just a little bit in the future? Maybe. If they find that it really is kind of competing, but I don't know. I think every little 0.1/10 of a second that you change it actually has a pretty big effect on the numbers. And so I don't think the tuning needs to be huge to change the overall volume of damage. So short version, I like it. I think it should stay. I think it's good. One thing I found that was weird and wonky, and I think it's probably due to add-ons more than Blizzard's end of things, is the one button on my on my action bar, the icon didn't change very often. As in, hey, the next thing you should do is this, and the next thing you should do is this. And I have a feeling that's an add-on issue, not a Blizzard issue. So that's a slight downside. I'm not going to worry about it. Maybe if I do use this to learn a rotation, or to learn, like, hey, what's the better way to play Warlock, which I have no idea, then yeah, I would want to kind of look into that and figure that out. I think in general, the lore walking thing does a really good job of mixing lore walker Cho commenting on the story, on the quests, and the actual questing and the work that you're doing, acting out certain things. What I did notice in the Ethereals campaign, and I think most of the way done, I'm not quite done. I think it did something interesting. It reused quests from Netherstorm, from the Burning Crusade. Yeah, from Burning Crusade. It reused an entire quest line I remember doing, where you do go and have to defeat Dementia. So I won't say kill him, obviously. He's coming back. But you, in the quest line, you kind of raid the place. You get up there with a team of Ethereals. That's when I remembered the quest. I remember marching with that team of Ethereals because they move in such a weird way. It's really super cool. And so I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of just repurposing that old content, but it's adding context. It's adding Lore Walker Cho's explanations to things. So I think that's a really good thing. I'm curious if they're going to use lore walking to, say, tell even older stories that are not in game, or add content in support of, say, Midnight, add things. And I assume that's the Xalatath story, which I haven't gotten to yet. So I was kind of hoping to have all these done so I could chat about them with you, but not yet. I'm in the story of the Ethereals. We've defeated the Dementius. We've gone to Argus, and now we're back to Oribos. Yay for that. So right now in that quest line, I'm running around Oribos talking to cartels and, you know, experiencing some of the stuff that actually I didn't necessarily get. I did not spend much, if any, time in Tazavesh, even in when it was current. So that's going to be interesting to me to jump in there. So lore walking, I'm a big fan. I think, you know, obviously it's the first iteration. I think it could be a little smoother in there. I think the UI could be a little smoother. Sometimes when you pause, you're like, am I supposed to talk to Cho? The UI is a little bit wonky, I think, not super clear. But I think it does a really good job of blurring and blending and walking you through a certain story. So keep it up, Blizz. Keep schedule 2 or 3 of these for each you know, I don't know, patch, expansion, something. Roll these out. I like them. All right, more medicinal bourbon. Here we go. Looking at my playing notes for the last month, I did notice, I think I kind of tried to do the rotation assist where it suggests, hey, push this one next, push this one next. And I think that was not working with my Elv UI add-on. So I scrapped it. I didn't bother testing that out, and I didn't feel like finding out why. I assume it's something with Elv that wasn't working, and maybe I need to update something. I don't care enough. So maybe in the future I'll test that out. If you've tested it out and you have an opinion on it, let me know. Shoot me a line and let me know what you think of rotation assist or one button assist or whatever they call it. Okay. Last thing in this section is a little story. I mentioned in the opening that I had done this and certainly hinted to it. Well, 5 weeks ago, it was a Sunday night. It was bedtime. And it was a Sunday in which we had partaken of a few tequila drinks. And for some reason, at the end of the night, there was half a lime left over. So I didn't want to waste half a lime. It's probably the worst reason to ever make a drink ever. But yeah, had half a lime left over. Didn't want to waste it. So I concocted a drink using Goldie's gin. Goldie's is a gin made by a friend of mine and former colleague. So I concocted a gin drink using my friend's gin. Now, my friend is not a random gin maker. He actually owns and runs a distillery now, and he makes Goldie's gin. Goldie's, highly recommended. If it is near you, you should pick it up. I promise you. The bottle's gorgeous, and it is super flavorful. It is a solo queue approved adult beverage. See if he'll sponsor. Maybe it'll be my first ad. Maybe this is the first ad. Goldie's gin. Drink Goldie's gin. He's a former WoW player, long time ago, so he's not completely unrelated to the story. But anyway, I don't know why I'm telling you about making more drinks before bed, but whatever. Anyways, as I'm climbing into bed, my wife is already asleep. So, grab my laptop, and, apparently she just had not had as much tequila or gin as I did. She was already asleep. I was kind of not ready to go to sleep yet. And in that headspace, I decided, why not? It was time to begin my time walking experience. What could possibly go wrong, right? Actually, more to the point, what did it matter? Like, if it was a shit show, then I could just say it was the tequila and no one's going to know who I am anyways, so it doesn't matter. So, yep, I'm, not going to pass judgment on the pros and cons of imbibing alcohol, but I decided, why not? So I grabbed an alt, and I had to first think, Hoarder Alliance, what did I want to do? And I thought it would be good if I grabbed a character that I knew well. So at first I figured I should do the Horde. I do a lot of Alliance stuff, so I thought I'll do a Horde character. I grabbed a level 64 Hunter. And then I needed to find the time walking quest giver. Now, I was not so drunk that I was going to start doing time walking without grabbing the do 5 time walking quest. I'm not that dumb. So I managed to realize that, and then I realized, well, where is that quest giver if I'm not in Dornegal? And then I, right or wrong, thought, well, I probably need to be level 70, so I'll just switch. And instead, I grabbed a level 70 Tauren Druid, who I mentioned earlier, and level 70, he can get to Dornegal. So I went with the level 70 Druid to get into the War Within. Turns out, I do think the weekly quest is only for level 80s. So at the time, I grabbed it and thought, oh, well, whatever. Or I didn't grab it. Maybe I didn't even grab it. I couldn't find it. But anyway, here I am. Now I've got this Druid out and I'm ready to start. So, I thought if I wait any longer, all of my liquid courage will fade. So here we go. I level 373. Wondering, is that going to be a problem? And I hopped in. I clicked that button to queue for time walking. And I was nervous. I was honestly nervous. So I got into my first group. And there were levels 58 all the way up to 80. Nobody said anything. There was no chat, nothing. I don't even remember where were we. I think we were at Mogashan. Nope. The monastery, where Terran Zoo is the final boss. So I forget the name of the monastery. I died a couple times on the last boss, and I could not loot the final chest because I had some sort of debuff that I only figured out after the fight. And it was very confusing. And of course, that was the way my first one was going to go. So I think I probably got stuff in the mail. But when I sort of got booted from the group because I died or something. It was very confusing. But before I left the group, I was the last one there. So I was very confused. But I did notice that there was a little 1 of 5 next to the time walking quest. So I clearly got credit even though I had died. And I hit level 71. So I thought, all right, on to number 2. Before I lose my nerve, I'm going to do the second one. Because remember, in time walking, to get credit for the week, you have to get the buff. And the buff is you need to do 4 time walking dungeons. And after that 4th one, you have a buff that lasts for 3 hours. In every successive week, all you need to do is 1 more to re-up the buff. So this first week, I had to do 4. On to number 2. And then my wife kind of rolled around unhappily, and I thought, uh-oh, this might be the end. She might wake up or something, but she went back to sleep. So off I go, back into the queue. Waited about, 7, 8, 10 minutes, whatever it was. The second dungeon was the walls of the big wall in the whatever valley. I don't know any of the dungeon names. I'm sorry, and I should have written some of them down. And I didn't. Again, I managed 3 of the 4 bosses, but I did get credit. Still nobody talking, and which is fine with me. And I hit level 72. So 2 dungeons, 2 levels. I clicked the Q button again. Number 3 was Mogushan. Is it Palace? Because I think the vaults is the raid. I think Palace might be the dungeon. Did that. Then number 4 was the brewery, and boom, I got my buff. I'm done for the week. And then I thought, well, I know, but there's 5 in the quest, so... And while I was queuing, my wife got up to go to the bathroom in the night. I thought, oh no, this might be the end, but nope. She went back to bed. And I did number 5. It was the monastery where the whole thing started. So in that night, I jumped in, and yeah, it was interesting. There was a point where, in that last one, where the tank pulled too much stuff. And there were a couple deaths. And the tank apologized. He was very polite, like, oh, yeah, sorry, guys. I pulled too much, blah, blah, blah. So it was a good experience. In the 5 dungeons that I ended up doing, no real chatter. The only chatter was an apology, and that was great, and we got through it. And at the end, I have week 1 down. I bought one of the mounts. I don't even remember what mount it was. And at the end of the night, I was level 75. So I went from 70 to 75 in 5 dungeons. I now understand when people say, oh yeah, leveling by time walking dungeons is the way to do it. Oh, yep, I see that now. Wow, that is interesting. Well, the following week, I did my dungeon, got in, got out, maintained my buff. So there we go, 2 weeks in, 3 weeks to go, because you have to do 5 weeks to do the turbulent timeways and get the benefit. We get to July 14th, and it was a Monday night, so it's towards the end of the week. I'm like, oh boy, I started 1 week late. I knew I could miss 1 week because there's 7 weeks of turbulent timeways. You need 5. I missed the first week. It was, only the second week when I got my liquid courage that Sunday night. So July 14th would have been week 3, and I intended to just do 1 time walking dungeon just to keep that buff up. But then something funny happened where we finished and everything went smoothly. To be completely honest, I don't even remember what week that was or what expansion we were in for time walking. But first one went uneventfully, successfully. and smoothly, I would say. And then all of a sudden, the dungeon queue button fires, and hey, accept and do, and we're into another dungeon. It's like, oh, yeah, I guess. Why not? I'm here. It's telling me this is the way the world is telling me to go. So we did another dungeon. And then I did another dungeon. I guess we had a good group, and I guess this is a thing that happens in dungeons where, the group just kind of keeps going. So that was kind of cool. I gotta admit, that was kind of cool. On the fourth one, I'm trying to remember what the dungeon was. I can't remember now. But the fourth one was interesting because we were in a place where, it's going to kill me not to remember, but there was some water around where we were fighting the final boss. And not even the final boss, it was like a middle boss. And I fell into the water and I couldn't get out. I didn't know how to get out. I had no idea how to climb out. Whatever week 4 of time walking was, because it was my 3rd week. So whatever week 4 was, it was Shadow Moon Burial Grounds. And the boss was Bone Maw. Took me a while to figure that out. Back to the show. It was weird. I could not get out of that water to save my life. I found it later, but by the time I found it, I had fallen so far behind, and then I get to the final boss, and I literally just died. I walked in, I was like, oh my God, I finally caught up to and some mechanic, I literally wasn't even ready to fight yet. Some mechanic just killed me. And then I got credit for how did that work? I got credit for the dungeon, but I was popped out of the instance. And I don't know if that means I was kicked. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I got the deserters buff because I left an instance early. Now, doesn't it say when you're kicked? I don't know. This is all new to me. This is solo queue. I don't do this. I don't do groups. So this was fascinating. I got the deserters buff. I feel like there should be an achievement for that. I feel like I did a thing. Now, I didn't desert on purpose. And I didn't even care. That's the reason I didn't care. It's like, okay, great. I got the deserters buff. That's kind of fun. I went and did a delve. No big deal. So I did finish whatever thing for the week, but I was just so proud that I got the deserters buff. I feel honestly like that should be an achievement. I don't know. I know Blizzard doesn't want to encourage that. It's supposed to be a penalty. I was kind of proud being a solo player. The fifth one that week to get the quest done, I did hop into a fifth one, and an interesting thing happened. We had a really good tank who was really smart. He was pulling the right things and doing the right stuff, whatever. Maybe in time walking that's not that hard and I shouldn't be impressed. But all of a sudden, everything just stopped. And in the chat, the tank said, sorry guys, need a break due to child aggro. I thought that was hilarious. I'm imagining, young dad who all of a sudden has to go tend to his kid. And he was gone for about 8 minutes. And I thought, oh boy, all I hear about is toxicity in all of these dungeon queues and all these things and in group content. This is going to be bad. People are going to lose their crap. And you know what? It didn't happen. Everyone stayed. Nobody bitched about stuff. Eventually, when it was clear that this was going to take a minute or two, people started popping out toys. People started dancing. It kind of warmed my heart. It warmed my heart enough so that when this time we finished the dungeon, he came back, like I said, after about 8 minutes, he's like, oh, thanks guys. Sorry, here we go. Everyone was like, yep, all right. And that's when I typed NP into the chat. No problem. giving me crap in the opening for typing NP. Yep, I communicated. Me, Solo Q, Mr. Solo Q. I communicated with other humans. Again, there should be an achievement for that, just saying. So I was so excited that this went well that when, the little thing popped up to go on another dungeon, which would have been 6 for me, and I had already done my 5. I was done. What the heck? I thought, yeah, I'll pop in. I'm going to keep going with you guys, because why not? That seems like putting good into the world. And that said, number 6 was a disaster. Oh, this was, now I'm seeing in my notes, we were doing, the 6th one was Grimrail Depot. And I had just done Grimrail Depot that day. Maybe for the first time, maybe not, probably not, but the first time in years, solo, as I was just running around collecting, and stopped in, did that. So I knew it a little bit, but I actually, I knew it from rolling over it as a character who completely outgeared it. This was slightly, the challenging. I never got past the first boss. I died a couple of times. We wiped 3 times. We had a couple of people drop out, a couple replacements come in, and when that tank left, who was, I don't know, maybe he wasn't good, but maybe he was. Anyway, when he gave up, and then I was somehow the leader of the group, I was like, okay, this has gone way too far. The little thing said, hey, you're the leader. Do you want to relist your group? I was like, what? Who made me the leader? Do you know who I am? You do not want me. I said no. I was like, yeah, no, I guess we're all done. So, I didn't need it. I already done mine. So, yeah. But when we popped out of there, it felt like it was time for me to finish up, and I was just 30,000 XP short of level 80. So just like that, level 80. And wouldn't you know it, a couple weeks later, I did finish the Turbulent Timeways. Obviously, there's one more week to go. If you're 4 of 5, you still have a chance this coming week when Time Walking returns to BFA. For the first time, part 2. The first time was 6 weeks ago, the opening of the Turbulent Timeways. So this is still kind of new BFA, and oddly enough, I'll probably jump in only because why not? It'll be neat to kind of see some of those. I've now done some of those dungeons alone, solo, but maybe I at least want to get to the vendor and see what's on the vendor. Honestly, I haven't been buying a lot of things on the Time Walking vendors. I've seen some of them. I've ignored most of the mounts, but I did get my Chrono Corsair. I did get my Infinite Pirate mount. So, hey, I'm part of a club now. It's not a solo club, and I'm sorry if you feel like I'm cheating on you or cheating on myself or I don't know. It was neat, and I, in all honesty, I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that it went well, and I hope it keeps going well. And maybe I do hear that it's Mythic Plus where all the toxicity is, and I don't really have any huge interest in that system, so that's fine. But Time Walking the content is easy enough. It's still challenging. Like, I still need to push buttons, and we still need, some amount of time to kill things, especially bosses. So it's not just I push one button, bosses fall over. I push one button, bosses fall over. That gets tiring. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we'll talk about that in our main topic here in just a second. But I kind of like the challenge of Time Walking. And I guess it feels like, to me, the sweet spot. In my mind, if Blizzard said, you're in charge of things for a week, And whatever you decide, we'll find a way to implement. What I would implement is a solo level of challenge that is challenging, but also absolutely achievable, right? You can roll through old content, old raids, 40-man raids, 20-man raids, 30-man, whatever, dungeons, heroic dungeons, mythic dungeons, doesn't matter. You can get all of those things to scale to a level that is challenging and possible. That's what I would love. I hate moon firing raid bosses from 30 yards away. Like, bing, dead, collect the loot, move on. Like, it's not fun. Again, we'll talk about it in a moment. But it is what it is. I would love that challenge of, a solo level of challenging content, old content. And time walking is close to that. If I could do time walking alone with that level of challenge, that to me is a solo player's sweet spot. And I feel like, again, that is just a scaling issue. It is a math issue. It is let's figure out solo raids, follower raids, follower dungeons, give me the AI group, whatever. If that's the way that level is, I no longer solo things for content. I do a follower raid, and you make it challenging enough that I need the 9 others in my little raid group, AI people, great. If I need 4 others, if I need my follower dungeon crew to go do old dungeons, great. I would like that. And then, as much as it would slow down the collecting aspect, I'd be okay with that. All right. That feels like a really good transition to our main topic of this month, which really is the Collector's Bounty event, which is the thing once turbulent time waves were out of the way, once, I kind of abandoned the ethereals and the lore walking, once everything else is out of the way, once I got all the greedy emissary stuff, my brain was locked in on, hey, here's 5% more chance for all the things that you've been wanting. So let me tell you, if I've been successful at the Collector's Bounty. Spoilers I have. Here we go.
Let's get down to business.
You know that saying on the internet where somebody will post, if I win the lottery, I won't say anything, but there will be signs. Yeah, there'll be signs. Think about the music that's playing right now. The main topic for this episode is the Collector's Bounty event. This event, I don't want to say it came out of nowhere, but this was not necessarily on my radar. I didn't know it was really coming. And at the beginning of the month, when this began, it was sort of like, I have a lot of things to get to, things to dip into. At the time, I thought I was doing more horrific visions. There was the greedy emissary. There's the lore walking. There's, there ended up being time walking. And one of the things I love about World of Warcraft is, and this might sound perverse and odd to some people, but I love going back and farming for old mounts, mostly for mounts for me. Pets don't really do it for me. I collect them. I don't get rid of them. It's something to have, but it's the mounts, and it's collecting sets of Mog. Not necessarily like I have looked back at Mog and targeted stuff, but for the most part, that is a passive collection while I'm out running around and getting mounts. The Mount Collectors event, I should say, the Collector's Bounty event is right in my wheelhouse. And certainly mounts are the big sexy thing. They are the ones that have the crazy drop rates. They are the ones that everyone's kind of running around and going crazy for. That is the increased chance to get these super rare mounts, a lot of them with a 1% drop rate or less than 1% drop rate, or mysterious, unknown, classified, only guessed at drop rates. Invincible, Ashes of Alar, like so many of these pillar mounts are up for grabs, because going from less than 1% to 5%, 5% is 1 in 20. Now, no doubt, running something 20 times does not guarantee that you will get it. That's not how that works. This is not the bad luck protection area of Blizzard that we're in. The Collector's Bounty event is designed to increase the drops for certain items. Most of them are mounts, but there are a handful of weapons, the Eye of Sulfuras, Bindings of the Windseeker, Warglaives of Azeroth, Thoradal, the Star's Fury, and the Golden Hearthstone card of Lord Jaraxxus from Gul'dan. That last one is a toy. The others are all legendary weapons. And then there are essentially a list of pre-Dragonflight rare mounts from certain dungeons and raids. All of those have an additional 5% added to them. So some of them were 2%, 1.5%, less than 1%, whatever. They have gotten that 5% boost. So again, 1 in 20, I think people like their odds at 1 in 20. 1 in 100, less than 1 in 100. Hey, let's talk about the event first, and then I'll talk about kind of what it means to me. So yeah, the mounts are the sexy thing, but here's the other side of it. Not only are the drop rates increased, but you're getting double the loot from each boss. Like each boss has, I believe it is double. Yes, double drop rates for pre-Dragonflight dungeon and raid transmog. That's awesome. So if you want to target a tier, target something, this is such a great benefit. I have been wandering into raids and dungeons that don't even have mounts, just to run through once and see what I can grab. Here's what I've been doing. I already had an add-on called Master Collector, and that was sort of all sorts of different rep grinds and other grinds and dungeons and raids and all sorts of collecting things that span the entire game and pointing you to things you can do. What I actually didn't even focus on that, because early on in the month, I did hear of an add-on made specifically for this event called Bounty Helper. And you install Bounty Helper. I use CurseForge. There are other ways to get add-ons. /BH pulls up the 46 mounts. It lists 46 mounts that are on offer at these increased rates from various dungeons and raids. At the start of this month, I had 13 of them already. So I already had Ashes of Alar. I have a few more of those rare mounts. I have a bunch from Mists of Pandaria, both from the change in drop rates when they changed the world boss. I gotta think the bad luck protection. I told you about this more than a year ago, and I got all 4 of those world boss mounts within 2 weeks. It was insane. And then I cleaned up a bunch of other raid mounts from the Mists Remix event. That was great. So I had 13 of those going in. And I've been essentially sticking to my main, my actual longtime main, my Feral Druid, Night Elf Druid. taking her through all the old content. I thought, okay, I've got an army of alts at all different things. And, part of me was like, I don't have the time to set everybody up in a bunch of different places. I'm just going to run around on her, chase as many of these mounts as I feel like. And then if she's got lockouts and I've got time, I'll switch to another character. So every now and then I would switch. But for the most part, I stuck to my druid. And I got to tell you, if you're asking my advice, not just for this event, but for any farming, I'm going to make a case for Feral Druid, period. Speed. And I know there's, some other classes, Demon Hunters have some speed and movement abilities, which are useful. I'm not saying this is the best. I'm just advocating this is a great way to go. Feral Druid, at the bare bones of it, you are 3/4 mounted at all times, at least speed-wise. I'm looking at my main right now. I usually don't have the game open when I'm recording, but I happen to just because I've been looking at stuff for research as we go. And I've parked her outside of some rare in Shadowlands. I don't even know why I'm there. Oh, because I was trying to get into the seat of the Primus, as I said. And so I'm wandered over to a nearby rare spawn point. And just sitting there in cat form, 158%. Like, that's faster than any of your characters are walking. And yes, you can blink with a mage and run a little faster for a little bit. Yes, demon hunters can rush and fly and do things. Those are pretty good. But that cat form is fantastic. Add to the fact that you can stealth. So you can stealth and run at 158%. And you can hit the speed boost. So every 45 seconds, you can sprint for a handful of seconds to get you there a little bit faster. There are some of these, particularly Vortex Pinnacle, where I've done it so many times now that I know the point where I'm going to hit my speed boost, where that 45-second cooldown runs out in my path the whole time. It's like 3-4 different places in the whole loop, running around those 3 bosses where I'm going to push that button every time. It is just nice. And particularly, I'm running around on mostly 80s. I don't know why I would do anything less. But if you've got, if you're farming with a character who's geared maybe not quite as high, or maybe you're farming Dragonflight stuff or Shadowlands stuff, being in stealth is great. Now I know there are stealth detectors mobs out there, but boy, if you can sneak past stuff, you're not killing stuff. And with farming, the name of the game is speed. You don't want to spend more time than you need to. I know earlier I talked about, hey, it'd be nice to have a challenge. Well, yes, and at times I do think so. Other times, if you're running through Icecrown Citadel, dozens and dozens, some people it's hundreds of times trying to get that horse, you don't want to dilly-dally. I've talked before about that race to get to a certain point by the time the RP talk stops, and that being a measure of how I'm doing. And it's true, you get super familiar with these instances. It's kind of a lot of fun unto itself. Another benefit of druids is they have the Dreamwalk Hearthstone. And the Dreamwalk Hearthstone takes you into the Dreamwalk, which essentially is another portal room where you can then go to Faralos, Hillsbred, no, that's not, Grizzly Hills, and a bunch of other places, including Belemeth. Not that anyone's hunting rares on Belemeth, but that's another way to just run around the world quickly. So, that's a benefit of mages, to be able to port all over the place. This is kind of a poor man's port, a poor druid's port. You head to the Dreamwalk and you go from there. Having a Legion Hearthstone, of course, is super helpful. Having your Garrison Hearthstone, super helpful. You can instant mount, which, you know, is nice. It's not the biggest thing. That said, having a mount sitting there, you know, running through Vortex Pinnacle, for the longest time I forgot I could mount there. And then literally in the last couple times I was there today, I was like, oh, I don't have to hit that speed boost in Vortex Pinnacle if I can mount and run at 200%. So that's nice. It's handy to have. But the stealth and the speed on inside, you know, interior places where you can't mount up, it's just so good. It's just so good. So I highly recommend Druids. I started to look into the whole idea of speed as a gear stat and how to assemble a set of gear that would increase your speed to run through dungeons and run through raids. And, you know, frankly, it started to get really complicated. It was like, oh, you need this Azurite gear and you need to do that. And I thought, why am I taking Azurite gear? I just want to be geared at 600 plus and run around these places. And again, being a druid, I don't need that speed quite as much as if I were a Death Knight or something slow. So while I was going to learn about speed gear and make some recommendations to you, I'm going to fall back on my recommendation to play a druid. There are also some speed potions out there. I looked, they're not cheap. I don't really, for an hour of running a little bit faster, I'm not sure I want to spend thousands of gold. I think one of them was even 10,000 gold. And I thought, nope, that's just not worth it for 1 hour of benefit. Again, you do you. That's certainly a decision. You may have money to burn. I'm feeling poor, as I mentioned. So I mentioned that those are my recommendations. That's what I sort of recommend for farming in general is, boy, use that druid. You've got the ability to move around the world. You've got the ability to move around inside of instances kind of as quickly. You know, I'm not saying it's the fastest. I'm sure someone could come up with some build that does something better. But for ease, the druids have natural tools to move quickly through content. So that's my best advice. What I've not tested, I don't know if there are any race druids that are faster than others. That's something I don't know as I think about that. I may have to poke into all my druids and see if there's any weird difference. A little research. Sandalari trolls do have a 5% movement buff, but as part of their racial ability that you have to select, and that selection is on a 5-day cooldown. So every 5 days you have to return to your lowest shrine and reset that ability. So those are my recommendations. How have I been doing in this month? Well, it was a slow start. Like I said, I was doing a lot of other stuff, and then I finally changed gears probably about a week and a half in and started hitting instances and targeting some of the things that are on my list on that 46. There are some things I'm not targeting. I'm not doing anything from Shadowlands. I just decided kind of off the top. There's nothing there that super interests me. I don't know. There's a lot on that list. Like 46 doesn't sound like a lot. But that's, you know, take out the 13 that I already had. So now I'm down to 33. There's a couple overlapping. Like you can get a couple in a single instance. So maybe we're down to 30. That's still 30 instances. Some of them you can run, some of those dungeons you can run on normal, which means you can run a heroic, and then you can run up to 10, one heroic a day, and then up to 10 normals per hour. So you can run 10, come back in the next hour and run 10 more. That is a thing. And, you know, there are some of those that I've done. Again, Vortex Pinnacle, you can run it once on heroic, and then you can also get the mount, the Drake of the South Wind. The Drake of the South Wind, can drop from any of those. Some of the raids will drop their mounts from any of the difficulty levels. I just don't remember, and I haven't bothered to test this out, if you can run something on heroic and then run it on normal, then run it on mythic. I didn't think you could. And frankly, there's enough to do that I don't care. So anyway, to trim down that list from, let's say, 30, I threw out all of the just not interested in the Shadowlands mounts. So that trimmed us down to just Wrath and Kata and Mists and Wad and Legion and BFA. Just that. Just that. When I started digging in, I went to some of my old favorites. I hadn't been to Icecrown Citadel in quite some time. I was looking at the list on Bounty Helper and trying to plot out what's nearby each other and where I am and what's easy to get to. And the first thing I got was the Swift Zulian Panther. Is that correct? The Panther? I think it's the Panther now. It is. The replacement for the Swift Zulian Tiger. I also, a little bit later, jumping into Zul'Gurub a second time. Actually, the first time, I didn't realize there was two mounts there. I went in, targeted the Swift Zulian Panther, and got it. Was feeling good, like, okay, all right, this event's going to be easy. Yep, first attempt. I think I'd probably tried years ago, and it's not my first time in Zul'Gurub, but certainly I've not been there more than 2 or 3 times in 10 years. So I was feeling pretty good. Like I said, then I realized there was another mountain there. So I think later in the week I went back, and I think it took 2 times, and I got the armored Razashi Raptor. And again, thinking, all right, this is good. This is good. And the other thing that had me feeling good was heading into Icecrown Citadel. And yeah, after I don't know how many dozens of runs through ICC, I don't know how many runs I went through, including one this month, where you get to the end and you're like, wait, why isn't the add-on telling me that was attempt 21 of not getting? And you're like, oh, I'm on normal or 20 or on 10 man or whatever. Like, I'm on the wrong. Oh, there's nothing worse than running all the way through Icecrown Citadel to realize you never had a chance at the mount because you were on the wrong thing, the wrong difficulty level. I did do that again this month. Yay. 25-man heroic. Do it. Make sure. Double check. I've been really good at double checking this month to make sure I'm in the right instance. But yeah, I finally got Invincible's reins. Invincible turns out to be vincible. I now have it. So that feels good. That one is easily the one that I've worked the hardest for over all of these years. I've run more times that and Firelands, but I think I've actually run more Icecrown Citadels than Firelands. So that was really good. I was really excited to grab that. That was actually the second mount that I got this month on that list. Targeting a lot of the Legion raids, because in Nighthold and in both Nighthold and Tomb of Sargeras, there were 2 mounts on offer. Am I lying to you? I am lying to you. Tomb of Sargeras just has the 1 mount, but it's available on all the different difficulties. That's why I have multiple things in my head. But Nighthold is great because it has both of those infernals available to you. And the 4th mount that I won this month was the Fellblaze Infernal. So that is good. Sadly, the one that's left is the one that only shows up on Mythic. But, you know, at this level, if you're running a level 80 character through, it doesn't matter. Like, the gearing doesn't matter. The level of the raid doesn't matter. So it's okay. That said, as I look at Bounty Helper, it says the mount I got has an 8% chance normally, so it went up to 13. Meanwhile, the one on Mythic has a 0.94% chance, so I think those are estimations, but still, they seem like in the ballpark. So who knows? Maybe I'll grab that with another Nighthold run or two before this event's over. We will see. I then have kind of a funny ICC story, because the other part of this, as I said, is passively collecting all of this MOG, and I am very close to all the transmog from ICC, but what I don't have is some of the 10-man transmog. So I actually, with the increased drop rates, with the double loot rates, I decided I was going to run a 10-man ICC, even though I'd already had Invincible. And yes, I mounted up on Invincible to run around outside whenever I could. And I was sitting there on the platform, having killed Deathbringer Sourfang, and it hit me for the first time in those more than 100 runs. How is it that Sourfang, Deathbringer Sourfang, is a raid boss that doesn't give you loot? Like, why is that fair? Why is that a thing? So many of these bosses, you have, they die and the corpse, sparkles up and you grab the loot, or they die and a big weirdo chest pops up. How does Deathbringer Sourfang not give you loot? I've never once looted that boss in those 100+ times. And so after I got Invincible was the first time that I bothered to sit there and think about it for a second, when I noticed there's a loot box hidden off to the side, and hidden is the way I'm going to put it, because it is stashed off to the side. Like, especially for a farmer, a mount farmer, if you run onto that platform, you wait for the dreadfully slow, like, blah, 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 I have the power of the Lich King, I'm going to kill you all, stupid dwarf, blah, blah, blah. They go through the whole rigmarole. I'm just sitting there waiting, sitting at his side, waiting for him to stop talking so I can slaughter him. I'm already out of sight of that loot box. I have never once seen it. And of course, it's not there until after you kill the boss. It's not sitting there waiting. I laughed so hard. I was like, oh my God, easily. Now, I assume the way this works, I get mailed the stuff I never picked up. So I'm not saying I didn't get the stuff. I assume I've just gotten what I've needed. I never once realized. I just assumed, oh, that's weird. There's a boss that doesn't have loot. Well, whatever. Tell me if you've ever had that or something like that, that you literally am today this old before you realize. Yeah. Yay. I don't know if I'll ever go into ICC again, but I am really glad that I figured that out before I stopped going. Okay, another funny story from Mount Collecting Month is raid skips. And this is actually a tool you can use to, once you've done a raid enough times, you're allowed in some instances to jump ahead to a certain boss or the end boss or whatever. And a lot of times that takes the form of, at the beginning, there's a quest. You accept the quest. And when you've done the raid 4 times, they'll open up this either skip or portal or some little mechanic. And I put raid skips on my list of things to research for this show because I don't use raid skips. Not really sure how to. A bunch of things I like to raid farm, I don't think have them. So I've just never looked into it. But I hear it bandied about, and so, okay. And I think I kind of figured out, like, oh, okay, that's what all these, dang collect 4 things quests are, because those 4 things are the proof you've done the raid 4 times to a certain point, and therefore they'll grant you a thing. Through this month, I have slowly figured that out. And also, it's odd, raid quests, thank goodness, do not count against your quest limit. The quest limit is 35, up from 30 about a year ago or something like that, but 35. My druid is at, I'm not kidding. The reason I kind of left my game on at that one spawn point was for that rare, and that rare just popped. I happened to look over. I have 3 screens in front of me on my desktop, and I put it on the small one that I do not usually play on. So I've got my show notes, and I've got other show notes, and I've got a Wowhead article opened up. I've got the recording software going, all this stuff. And I just tucked the game away. And this is War Tusk in Maldraxxus at the House of the Chosen. It's a rare that's down there. And I just happened to notice from that Primus stupidity that I was talking about that there was a rare over there that dropped him out. And I thought, oh, I'll put my druid over there. That was earlier in the day. And then when I opened the game to look up Bounty Helper, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Might as well just leave it there. This is just a world, it's not even a world boss, it's just a world rare. And clearly it has a drop rate of 1 in 33-ish, because it says, 1 attempt on Blood Tusk, 3.03%. And wouldn't you know it, I got it on the first try. Just right now as we're talking. The Blister Back Blood Tusk found on the first attempt. So that is not a dungeon or raid instance, but I'm going to throw that into the list. That's mount number 10 for this month that I've grabbed. Woohoo! And you were there for it. This is exciting. I feel like we should toast this. This is great. That also literally, I think, is the first time I've just been playing the game while recording. And not really playing. I literally was just doing my thing, and out of the corner of my eye, there was like 3 people standing next to me. And I happened to look over, and there's just a giant warthog looking thing. Like, it's huge. It's like 10 times the size of my druid. And it's just sitting there. Clearly, nobody saw it. I don't know how long it had been there. We were all standing, like, outside of aggro range and whatever. And it's level 61, and we're all 80. And I was the first to notice. And so I don't know how many of them tagged the boss. I tried to kill it as fast as I could so no one else could get it. That was mean. I think they were, I don't know. Maybe that was mean. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. At least one of them also got there, but who knows if they got the drop. I got the drop. You guys are my good luck. Maybe that just proves I should be a streamer. Woohoo, right? No, I couldn't do that because you guys would hear the roughly 2 hours of coughing and clearing my throat that I'm going to have to edit out of here. So streaming is not in my future. Let's be honest. All right, let's get back to the story. I don't even remember which story I was telling you. I was telling you about raid skips. Okay. Early on, really before I had started figuring out raid skips, I hopped into the Battle of Dazar'alor, which also has 2 mounts, the GMOD and the Glacial Tide Storm, that is Jaina's mount. And so I went through the Battle of Dazar'alor on this show, did a raid of the month with it, and I hopped in, and at the beginning of you're on a boat, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we're gonna attack. This is great. I'm looking forward to this. I don't really remember much about it, even though we covered it for the show. I have terrible memory. So anyway, I'm there, and Ensign so-and-so is standing there with a little chat bubble, and he says, hey, you can ask him to tell everything he remembers. And so I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is how we start the raid. I'll ask him. And next thing I know, I'm chasing Jaina. And then I'm in the weird ice thing, and I don't even know what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, I have a mount. And then I was out of the raid. And I had no idea what was going on. I was like, What? How did I get out of the raid? How am I kicked out? What is going on? But at least I have the mount. I had no idea I had accidentally done a raid skip. Later, I figured out, like a week later, doing the research, I was like, oh. I don't know how I got it. I guess I've now done that a few times. I guess I've done it on the same character, although I didn't think I had. I don't know. I was baffled. I'm still, frankly, a little bit confused. But I got Jaina's mount, the Tidestorm. So that's exciting. That was the next mount. The next one after that I landed was Sharkbait, the giant parrot thing from Freehold, the Battle for Azeroth dungeon. Then it was on to the Eye of Eternity, the one boss weirdo raid where you fight Malagos and you, as a mount farmer, you go hit him once, he dies, but doesn't die because he has to go through 2 more phases, and then you kill a bunch of stuff and you float up in the air and everything, blah, blah, blah. It takes way longer than it should. Eye of Eternity is probably a source of frustration for many, not the most frustrating raid on the continent of Northrend, on the island of Northrend. Is it an island? Is it a continent? I guess it's a continent. Anyway, the Eye of Eternity drops 2 mounts, and Mount Bounty Helper lists them as one of them's normally a 3% drop, one of them's a 4% drop. It is the Azure Drake and the Blue Drake. And I had the Blue Drake, which, is that true? No. I had the Azure Drake, which actually is the lower of the two. I've had the Azure Drake, I think, for a couple years. It says you can get it on the 10-man or the 25-man raid, both of them. So they're kind of equally farmed. I've collected the Azure Drake, and this month, running it early on, I landed another Azure Drake. And then later, I landed a third Azure Drake. I actually have 2 characters with Azure Drakes in their bags. I could discard them, whatever, but I have them there out of spite, especially because I'm still waiting for the blue Drake to show up. And I finally got the Blue Drake as well, which is important because the Blue Drake brings me one step closer to an achievement called Awake the Drakes. And I know this has been around forever. A lot of you have probably heard of it. Awake the Drakes is an achievement where if you can collect all 9 drakes, the azure, the black, the blue, the purple netherwing, the twilight, the bronze, the blazing, the onyxian, and the red, you get another mount, the emerald drake. So you get a drake for getting 9 drakes. Buy 9 drakes, get 1 free. That's what that is. In the back of my mind, for years, that has been out there. Like, okay, hey, yeah, I should try and get all those drakes. I'm gonna passively keep working towards that, and as I get drakes, I'll think about it more. Well, the blue drake brings me to 6. I have the azure drake, the black drake, the blue drake now. I have the twilight drake, the bronze drake, and the head of Onyxia, the Onyxian drake, which means I only have 3 left. Now, the purple netherwing drake is a rep grind. The red drake is a rep grind. Those 2, I know I can just go and do. I just have to go and do them. The only one that is a drop that's left is the blazing drake from the Deathwing fight. So, I've been doing some Spine of Deathwing lately. Because if I can get that, then the rest is just me grinding. And I don't have to grind inside this month. I can wait to do that. So that's really exciting. That's now probably the one big goal left for me for this month of collecting mounts. And then the one other loop that makes sense to me is running characters to the south of Kalimdor to head over to the aforementioned Vortex Pinnacle and the Throne of Four Winds. Throne of Four Winds is a raid, the Alakir raid, and there is one Drake of the North Wind up for grabs there. And then Vortex Pinnacle, 3-boss dungeon that I mentioned you can run normal and heroic with the Drake of the South Wind. Well, a couple days ago, I finally got the raid drop, the North Wind, and just today, just before I started recording, I literally said, all right, I'm going to do this 2 more times, and then honest to God, I got to press record and I got to start doing some stuff. And I did it once, and I thought, okay, what am I going to do this time? I'm not going to kill anything. Trying all these different tactics, like I'm going to kill none of the trash this time. Well, I got to one of the bosses, and I accidentally aggroed something, and then I literally can't get out of the portal to get out of the instance until I kill everything and I'm out of combat. So after killing everything at the end of the raid, I thought, you know what? I'm killing everything. So I'm like, one more time, then I'm going to record. I went through it and I killed everything in sight. I said, Alteris, the big boss that drops the Drake of the South Wind, I'm killing everything in your raid. Just give me my loot. And after probably 50, 60, 70, if I had to guess, 70 times, he finally agreed. And so now I have both of those off the south coast of Kalimdor. The Drake of the South Wind, the Drake of the North Wind are both mine, bringing my total up to 9. I have collected 9 of those big name mounts. So I'm up to 22 on that list of 46. And with my little Razorback thing I just scored a few minutes ago, 10 mounts that I've grabbed. Of course, that's not bad. I've heard some people getting blanked, and I don't know how many times they've run stuff. I've run a lot. I didn't do anything for a week and a half, so it's not like I'm no-lifing this, but I've probably done more than average, and I think I have more patience for doing this than maybe some people do, and that's okay. So I don't feel like 9 is obnoxious luck. You know, if the average of things I've collected is a 1, we were saying 1 in 20 for the lowest stuff, it's 1 in 10-ish. So if it's 1 in 15, 15 times 9, what is 15 times 9? 140 something? 135? Have I done 135 instances? Probably not. But I've probably done 80 or 90. So I'm probably a little bit ahead of the curve. I mean, you know, the Zul'Gurub first, second tries, that's pretty good. So yeah, I'm doing okay. But I'm still putting a lot of time in. It's not like they all come on the first try. I'm not that lucky. I think this is a great event. And I'll tell you why. When you look at these lists of mounts and you look at the transmog lists and for instance, Icecrown Citadel, you have all the different tier sets. You have all 4 different armor types. You have 10-man, you have 25-man. I can't remember if they differ on heroic and normal, what the split is there, but you have so many different tiers and so many different mogs and so many different things. And a lot of them are good enough looking that you want them. Two things made all the difference. Being able to get any armor class appearance on your toon is huge. That is a game changer. To have to go through Icecrown Citadel for each armor type was so much work. You know, to say, I mean, at this point I would say, oh, I've already got the Arthas mount, I've got Invincible, but I have to keep running this because I want to keep getting all of the, all of the appearances because I'm just a cloth wearer or I'm just a plate wearer or whatever. That is such a huge change. That combined with the double loot drops, the double loot totals, and I'm collecting Mog sets. Like every few runs, I get a little ding that says, hey, you just collected an appearance from the blah, blah, blah raid as an achievement. And I'm like, this is great. Before this month, I hadn't even run this raid before. So that makes me feel like I'm catching up. I've been playing this game for 10 years. But the game is 21 years old. There's so much that I've missed. I've been playing this game 10 years, but I've not been doing current content. So I'm even further behind. And that feels insurmountable until now. And not going to lie, part of me that motivates me is I want to collect things. And we'll talk more about that in a future episode, maybe even the next episode, I think. But is that good or bad? Let's ignore that for the moment. But if you feel like, oh man, this is no way to collect the things, not even all the things, but collecting things, it's 21 years of stuff and I'm so far behind and I got to run this 13 boss raid that takes 40 minutes. I got to do it 4 different times, to completion, to get the different armor sets by armor class. Oh my God. This catches up. Having 22 of those 46 mounts and really 22 of the 30 something that I'm focused on, that feels really good because it feels like I can now balance playing the game with playing the old game, like getting into some of the current content or finishing off some of this questing, some of this lore master and sojourner stuff that maybe I run out of time for. Yeah, I mean, every Ice Crown Citadel run, even if I can get it down to like 25 minutes, that's 25 minutes of quests that I'm not doing or 25 minutes of something else I'm not doing. So this is exciting. I'm feeling really good. I think if this event comes around every 2 years, even every 3 years, that's going to inject life into the game in a nice way. And let's be honest, with housing coming, and with appearances for housing being added to old content, an event like this, with the right timing, running for a month, man, that might supercharge some people and get some people really excited about World of Warcraft. And isn't that what it's all about? Getting some bang for your buck, getting some entertainment for your literal bucks each month. I like it. I like this event. It's gotten me excited. It's got me in the game a lot. And so now here I am in that lull, as busy as I've ever been in game and still trying to get some words out to you. And that should wrap us up for this month. Hopefully you have enjoyed all the things in the month. Hopefully you're ready to go for 11.2. I know Wowhead, in poking around in the last hour or so, Wowhead does have an article of, hey, what's left to do or what do you need to do for 11.2? So, again, whatever you need to finish up, do a little research, find it out, tie up your loose ends, and then clear your bags and hope your bank transfers over. And we will see what happens on August 5th when we dive into the Ghosts of Koresh. All right, our time in the queue is way past over. I've dragged you along for a while. Hopefully you're still with me, and I appreciate you listening. I hope you were either entertained or informed, and maybe even both. I don't know how long this will end up being, because I've got a job ahead of me to cut out all the scratchy voice and coughs and clearing throat stuff, so wish me luck on that. Otherwise, I need to get back into Azeroth to check out I did not mention this earlier, The Doom of Koresh. It is the new 3-part audio drama that's voiced by Ray Porter, who is playing in character as Locust Walker. The story is written by Adam Christopher, and that is out. I believe it's on YouTube. There are links. There's, in the launcher, there's links on, Blizzard's site. Kind of the precursor. So if you have a chance, check that out before Tuesday, August 5th. That, and I need to finish up the Ethereals line of lore walking, and I will be ready for 11.2. That'll be exciting. Oh, let's be honest. If you need me, I'm going to be dancing on the spine of Deathwing as many times as I can before Tuesday, July 29th, before reset, hoping for that blazing Drake. Oh, those drakes. All right. All the music that you hear this week, all raid music in the background, made by the amazing people at Blizzard. Hashtag don't play muted. Come on. And the music taking us out right now is the song Ogre by my friends in the doom metal band Ogre. Check out their 5th album, Thrice as Strong. It is available on Spotify. And since we mentioned Stephen King and The Running Man earlier in the episode, you should listen to song number 6, King of the Wood. It is all about our horror pride of the state of Maine, Stephen King. So check that out. Check them out. I want to thank everyone who made this episode possible. My lovely and supportive wife, the good folks at Podbean who host Solo Q. I want to thank my contributing Patreon supporters, Andrew, Righteous Bandy, That Sky Guy, Sin, Snake of Voldoon. Kudos to your parade, my friend. John and Scott, they support the Patreon show at patreon.com/soloqwow. That money goes into hosting the show and other costs, so it is much appreciated. Thanks also to free members at Patreon: Max, Eddie, Bear, Friends of Wumpus, Sean, Kuro, Aaron R., Aiden Nakran, Guardian Sandy, Alice, and Dawn. Thanks for their support as well. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. You know the drill. Hopefully you're getting this just whenever it appears. If you want to leave a comment, a rating, 5-star rating, and maybe a little review thing. If I find those reviews on Apple and Spotify, I will read them. International folks, and I know there are plenty, if you're leaving reviews in Apple, I'm going to have to find a way to search for those. I don't know how to do that, and they don't come to me. So if you're sitting there thinking, God, when's this jerk going to read my thing? I haven't seen it, and I hopefully will find it. If you know you've posted something, email it to me at soloqueuewow@gmail.com, soloqwow@gmail, and I would love to see it, and I will definitely read it. You can find me, same handle, soloqwow, Blue Sky, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and kind of Threads. Hey, enjoy the drop of Ghosts of Koresh. I don't think we will be meeting up for an episode before that, so we'll probably talk after that. So get ready. Bank changes, lots of changes. It's going to be fun. We will talk about all of it when we return in August to the Solo Q. I will see you out there.